Welcome, ladies and gents, to FACEIT TV. I'm the jkaem and I'm joined by Thorin. How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad.
Awesome. When was the last time you were actually on FACEIT TV? Because you have been on here. Like,
oh, it was in the bad old days, DDK. It was back before you.
Everyone hated you back then.
Used to bring that long paper. No, I think there wasn't as many people knew me back then, so technically less people hated me back then. But I've diluted that more with people who like me now. Yeah.
Because you guys don't understand. Like, it used to be that we would bring Thorin over for a Quake cast, and everyone would love him, and then but then
it's going really well, right?
You weren't so well received on the CS cast initially, but I think people have started to appreciate your take on the game, and it's obviously you're providing a lot of value and insight. So, all right, guys. So it's FACEIT League. That's why we're here, and it's the European portion. We had the Oceania stuff earlier, which is awesome. But we'll be kicking things off here today with LGB versus EnVyUs. Lots of really awesome games today. Do you have anything?
Everything's just awesome. I mean,
of course.
Oceania awesome, Europe awesome. There's not even any. There's no difference really, and there's nowhere to go. Everything's just awesome. There's no level left. DDK. You know,
that's the thing.
In casting, you got to leave some space. You know, vocabulary.
I was just gonna say when I got hired for this job, I requested a thesaurus, but I'm still waiting to receive that.
When you saw your bottom line, your paycheck, were you like, that's awesome too?
Exactly. That's
nowhere for me to go with that either.
But that's how the game works. You see, you're the analyst. So you have to go in hard, and I have to.
Well, no, that's the key thing. Guys like you ensure that I'll always have a job in esports because you guys sell this like fictional world over here, and then when I come in with that gritty, hard hitting reality, it's sort of like the Wire or something, and you're like just like the Bill.
Exactly.
Good jokes for the British crowd there.
But this is like, I like how there is the truth behind. That's how it works. That's how it works. Okay, so we're dilly dallying here. So LGB and EnVyUs. Give me your thoughts on LGB first of all. It's going to be Dust 2 between these two teams. LGB I guess probably the most up and coming team of this league, and recently have been performing better and better and better. What's your take on them?
Well, no, if you look in terms of like the world rankings, LGB is the only team in the league actually, I think, where people wouldn't have had them in like their top 10, the top 8, depending on where you'd mix these teams up. So we saw they made it to the next major, EMS 1 Katowice. They got through that offline qualifier where maybe they might not have. Some people might have said it's up in the air whether they would, but they had a good performance there. They got through. I think actually this is a team where it is a team that's legitimate to say it's like on the rise, because the problem they've had before is they never had stable organization behind that could get them to a lot of lands. They went to some, like when some of these players were in London Conspiracy, they came here to the UK for Gfinity, and they managed to get a top 8 finish there, which was very impressive, but they couldn't follow up on it. Like they haven't had the lands to go to. You know, you don't see them at lands because first of all, they either don't qualify online or, well, they haven't been in big majors, etc. So I'm not sure yet with this team as to whether it's kind of like it's capped out in the sense that they're going to be around the level they're at now and they can compete and be an underdog, or whether if you give them more chances, they will actually improve. I think that's still like what we're all waiting to see, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing when I saw this team playing, we expected Flipside Tactics, the old DAT team, to actually make it through, because that was also when they just had that crazy lineup, having Simple and also on the team, like Simple coming away from Hellraisers, and then everyone was very excited to see them, but then they didn't make it through. It was this team instead. So it was initially there was kind of like we were a bit disappointed. Can LGB actually rise to the expectations we had for Flipside Tactics? And when I watched, I think it was like 4 rounds of Mirage from them, I started to see that behind their game, on their T side especially as well, you can actually see a lot of the thought behind what they're trying to achieve. And to me, that's always a good sign with a team, because you can clearly see that they're not just relying on individual skill. For example, the old Hellraisers lineup, this was something that was always an issue, is that, okay, they're great players, and sometimes they can upset, and do great results, but there's no synergy behind the players, and what they're trying to achieve is not coming together. But LGB seem to have this under control, so I'm quite excited to see what they have going for them. Do you think there's an issue with individual skill on this team, or do you think that?
Yeah, that's where I would start into beyond the experience issue. Because listen, experience, for some players, it's usually middle tier players who have to gain the experience and get better and get over nerves and stuff. You're a really great player, you tend to just be pretty good at it immediately. And part of being a great player often is like composure, so you can get the most out of your talent. I think one of the problems the Norwegian scene, so we're talking about LGB here, is gonna face, is that they don't have a legit superstar level player.
Right.
Now, at the end of the day, if tomorrow, God forbid, somehow Envy just disappeared off the face of the earth, all those star players gone, well, Titan would still be capable of playing with the best teams in the world and the second best French team because they have Kenny S, a legit superstar level player. Same for any region. If you can get at least one really, really good player, then you can build something around him and at least you can potentially contend. Whereas the problem I see in this LGB team at the moment is, okay, I've seen Rain have some really good games. I've seen Polly do okay sometimes. But are they going to consistently outshoot like Get Right and Forest?
Right.
Probably not. I mean, it seems unlikely that they're going to get to that level because we're talking about the best players in the world. So then you add in that some of their role players also might not be at quite the same level. I think what you were kind of touching on there, that's the main way a team like this has to try and compete, is actually by having like a fundament of tactics. Because a team that's a good example of a team that isn't that skilled but have done this recently is the Kaboom team, where they've had these results where they've been beat Cloud9 on Inferno at Mirage, they beat Fnatic on Mirage at ClutchCon, they got into the major, the EMS1 Katowice offline qualifier. This isn't a team where if you could put them like in a name server or you just put them in at pug games, I think some of their players wouldn't impress you, but they won on the T side. They actually had real strategies and real executes, and they just put all their time into that. They weren't trying to take aim duels with people better than them.
It is, and also I guess before that you would say the old LELC that got to the semi-finals, was it of Cologne with under Happy's reign? That was a pretty extreme example of that.
Another famous team. That the skill disparity between them and opponents was big, but they were making up for it with having a proper team and proper roles.
Absolutely. Do you think that this is something that's a little bit more endemic in CS:GO, that individual skill becomes more of an issue? Because at 1.6, do you see it being a little bit different, that teams that had, let's say, ultra awesome team play and strategic calling and so on were able to, and more rehearsal, were able to actually defeat some of these more individually based teams? Or do you think, is that just a CS:GO thing? Or
no, I think it is the case. I wouldn't say it's that you defeat them. It's not like if you just had the ultimate team play, you would win. I'd say it's that the spectrum was a bit more balanced. So, for example, if the team that was loaded up with the aimers had the right style and people were playing the level they could play at, they could definitely win. That could definitely happen. Like some of the SK teams that had Forest and Get Right on, some of these teams were mainly based around having a lot of skill and then having just enough team play to make it. But the crucial thing that you could do in 1.6 that you can't really do in CS:GO is you could go the other way. You could have like all the tactics and team play in the world and just enough skill, and that could balance it out enough. Whereas I think in CS:GO, you need like quite a lot of skill actually overall. You can't really just have, like the best example would be the Polish team that won all the majors, Neo, Taz, before they had Pasha actually. Taz used to just be the in-game leader, he wasn't a star player, so they only had one legit star player, which was Neo, and he was in like Kenny S mode, he was carrying every game. And the difference was, because the other players all had played together for years, so they had really good synergy with each other, really good team play, and it's not that they had great tactics, but they had a good sense of like positional play. Then added all those factors together, they could actually match up to the best teams that were like a lot more aimers, etc. And so I think it's just that there was more balance to it that way. It's more like once you knew your personnel, you knew which way to go with it, you know. Whereas I think in CS:GO, the bizarre thing about it is, even certain teams like Titan, okay, in CS 1.6, no one would ever complain if Existence doesn't frag because he wouldn't need to. He'd be calling really good tactics, and so you'd never consider taking him out of the team because the impact he could have tactically, you'd go, well, it's everyone else's job to kill. But actually in CS:GO, there are occasionally times when Existence will have a bad game, and I am kind of like, I think to a degree, the in-game leader even has to frag a bit in CS:GO, which is quite alien actually for people who come from 1.6.
Do you, actually, this is like actually going to bring on an interesting point for me. Do you think that part of the reason why we have this kind of difference between 1.6 and Go that we were just talking about, do you think part of it's due to the way that the pistols play now? Because obviously now it's complete, like for example, let's take EnVy as a team, for example. They're able to exert their individual skill and do huge amounts of, I mean, even if they don't win rounds, they're able to do so much economic damage and force teams into such like awkward spots, and they can't get as far ahead economy-wise when they're actually winning rounds. Let's say on CT, whatever. Like, do you think this is actually part of the reason for that? Would you say, or do you have a theory on why it is? Because I would
to a degree, in as much as if you think about it in that sense. First of all, if you're in 1.6 where the pistols are quite weak actually, unless you spend a lot of money to buy a Desert Eagle, which is a big risk.
Yeah.
Which even then, a Desert Eagle costs like $700. It's way more than even the 500 of like a CZ. So the risk is way bigger. So normally you're just going to have a Glock or a USP. In this particular scenario, you actually needed to use more team play to win those rounds. You had to have really good like combo of like, do we attack like together here? Do we go quick? Do we go slow? How do we do it? Do we use a flash or a smoke? Like, it's a big risk again, more of an investment.
Yeah.
I think in CS:GO, because it's not that they're overpowered entirely, but it's more like if you're really skilled, it seems that you can kill people with rifles a lot more when you have the pistols. So as a result, it becomes a lot more individualistic, even on those rounds, I think. Yeah, Envy are the best at getting team efforts out of it, but there's a lot of players who can abuse those pistols and kind of change the round in their favor in that particular sense. So I think what's funny is that actually has its roots in 1.6, where the teams that used to abuse force buying all the time in 1.6, mainly the Eastern European teams, the Poles and the Russians, they used to have the same quality, though. They had really skilled players. That's what would let them abuse it. But actually, the teams that were more otherwise were like the Scandinavian style. I don't think you see as much of that in CSGO. It's about everyone buying that pistol each time. And
it is interesting also from the point that it basically means that in many cases there's like less kind of buy rounds going on, or the importance of buy rounds become less important, because generally the fact that the pistols are so strong, you're able to constantly keep economy down so much for these teams. It just is weird, the impact. It's just interesting. It's probably a better word, how the impact changes things. But we are into this match. We have EnVyUs and LGB Esports here on Dust 2. It is best of one. It's the home and away system. So LGB, this is their home map. They got to pick this from the remaining maps. They're in the pool after the veto process.
So LGB picked this one?
Yeah, this is a choice from LGB, which is actually quite interesting, because I would actually say EnVyUs pretty damn
They're probably the best team on this map, I think.
Yeah, and partly because their individual skill is so ridiculous. So this is going to be interesting, because also they're going to be starting off on T side, and I feel like if they're going to find an edge, it's probably going to be on the T side.
Well, especially because, interestingly, even though Envy are amazing on this map, it's actually their CT side which has been weaker at the last few tournaments. Like when they've played NIP in those two finals, they actually lost the CT side of this map. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see against, in theory, a lower level team whether they can have a standard lockdown that you expect of, like, listen, if Dignitas plays this map, they're going to get 9 and 10 rounds, you'd figure.
Well, so far it's a pretty slow effort from LGB. They've just got one man on the B side of the map, just checking out the tunnels, trying to listen in, get some information. Meanwhile, the rest of his teammates all towards long here. So Rain's there to try to catch any rotation, and LGB rush into long. It's already a bit of a crossfire going on. Really key for Envy to make some quick frags here, but looks like jkaem going to be able to take down 2 quick ones, and that is still going to be a bit of an effort to get into the bomb site. We've got 2 players here trying to hold it down from Envy. Just one now happy left over against the 3 remainders on LGB, and there you go. Rain is going to pick up another kill, and we are going to see the pistol go to LGB. So EnVyUs only able to afford 1 scout. Well, actually, no, 2 scouts. The shox has just barely enough there as well. So we'd expect to see another scout and pistol armor to be in play. So this is always scary. Always scary for the team that did win that pistol round. And good approach coming in here from LGB, just trying to push together, not trying to basically mess around and allow EnVyUs to pick at them with those scouts. Good usage of smokes and grenades here. Definitely well thought out rounds coming in from LGB, as we see EnVyUs pretty much on the wrong side of the map here, but they could actually decide to even actually save these pistols and the scouts for the next round. And so they actually are going to go and do that. They can obviously use those in the following round to see what damage they can do. LGB, meanwhile, they're going to breathe a sigh of relief, because this is going to give them a bit more money in the bank to withstand any losses. And this is usually where Envy are dangerous in disrupting the flow of the match for the opposition in spots like this.
And it's not even that Envy lost out particularly in this scenario. It's like, it's not like they did anything wrong. They just never actually got a single shot chance to shoot anyone.
Yes, exactly.
Like even the guys looking mid, they just unscoped at the wrong time.
And that's why I kind of like the decision making from them as well, because they're ecoing twice anyways. So now they can commit to just go and die essentially. And now potentially this round they can find more favorable odds. But LGB obviously show clear understanding of how that they knew that there would be scouts in play. Playing a pick-based style against that is a mistake that so many top teams make. It's good to see that they didn't actually make that one. So they're doing exactly the same strat. I really like this from LGB. But EnVyUs now looks like they have maybe a slightly faster response. Didn't have the men on long to begin with, but they are stuck behind the smokes. So the grenades coming into play here in favor of LGB as they push in. So far they're yet to lose a man, and this is a really excellent execution of this push from LGB. EnVyUs guessing wrong by not hitting up an A defense straight away in this round, and instead trying to do a lot in middle and towards B. So kioShiMa will take down Polly, but that's alright. I mean, he just had a Tech 9. He was looking for some information, seeing if he can get something cheeky, and
he couldn't get to the gun anyway.
The This is like the kind of Counter-Strike that I like to watch. What we're seeing from LGB here. Like again, it's so clear that they understand the situation, what the strengths and weaknesses are of their opponent's choices, the position they put their opponent in, and now they're just going to try to hunt them down here and see what extra damage they can do. And LGB had such a clean round previously as well that their money should be pretty good now as well. Yeah, they're doing quite well. So this is a beautiful opening. I'm a big. I mean, this is. I always become like a fan of teams that play in this way. But we'll have to see how things actually progress now that we had the buy coming in for EnVyUs.
Now let's watch what shox is going to do here, because he usually plays up in this A site and he'll play like this corner area here. Because on this map in particular, this is the map where shox actually ops quite a lot. Like at least half the time when they have the money, you'll see him get the op. Whereas obviously, we usually think of SmithZz as the main opper in this team. But on this map in particular, for some reason, shox always likes to go for it.
Actually, I can't remember which game it was, but I remember SmithZz. I think it was the CLG match at Aspen, I think, where suddenly we just saw SmithZz drop off of the AWP on Dust 2.
I mean, he was doing really badly in that game.
Exactly, yeah. He was being bested by Peter, and it's interesting because it's like you're taking these risky angels. You're basically saying, I want to angel you because I feel like I'm going to beat you in the angels. And it's like almost a confidence game. Whereas if you put shox on the A site with the AWP, that's not really a confidence game anymore. It's not. He has better odds to take kills. There, it's less gambly, I feel.
I always think on this particular map, if you're on CT, if you're the middle guy with the AWP, you should only be doing that all the time if you're like one of the absolute best AWPers in the world. Because I've seen that was one of the areas in NIP where Makalele had problems on this map as CT when he would try holding that mid, because he'd be trying to take those angles against people who were better AWPers than him.
Yes, I agree completely. We're going to have Happy poking over the smoker. He is essentially the master of this. You can see he's going to get an easy kill on jkaem. They may not even know he is. They will see the tracer through the smoke perhaps, or rather just understand where Happy usually plays as LGB make their way into the split. And so far it's actually an okay hold to begin with, but LGB just with too many members alive here on too many angles for EnVyUs to deal with. And that systematic take there on that B split was, again, really well executed, and it seemed to just hit Envy off guard. And of course, I feel like the strength is going to be on the A side for Envy, with shox on the AWP, as you mentioned. I rarely see when the cat push comes in, if a team puts a bulk of players towards cat, I rarely see shox, for example, not getting the amount of frags he has to get to make the retake very possible for his team.
And LGB have actually only lost 3 men so far in this whole game.
Yeah, it's really,
and
really
they kept
impressive.
the AWP, crucially.
Really impressive from them so far, and so much money on their side, and Envy are forced into a pretty horrible situation, although, of course, shox is going to keep the AWP alive, and they're going to just grab a couple pistols, some deagles, just to keep themselves within the realm of buying in the following rounds.
He's probably going to try looking up middle, you'd imagine, but that actually isn't necessarily a very good move, because think about this. Say he even kills the first guy, you can't get to that gun. So you're actually risking getting a kill that, unless you're going to kill everyone in the whole thing, isn't necessarily going to win you the round. It's probably better just holding the A site, actually. But they also don't want to lose the weapon, so that's what they're kind of veering away from at the moment.
And it's like LGB is close up onto the site again. You can see the excellent calling from them, just sticking together for the long push. But NBK is going to get 2 quick frags on the bomb boxes, and that's going to be really important for them, as that then allows the rest of his team to get some decent engagements, and they actually take the round there. So
remember as well, that was with only the AWP. You had AWP and deagles, and they just killed the entire team and made it look really easy.
From LGB's perspective, I would have played the round the same if I was in their shoes. I'd feel like that's one of those rounds where it's like, well, we have to give it to Envy there, or maybe they mis-executed. They didn't get on the site quickly enough. NBK was too problematic as well. He kind of stopped them, I guess.
Oh, that'll help.
That's a good pick indeed there from Polly. And now we can see how shox has to move. He's essentially on A alone at the moment, and LGB has set up a line here, a very defensive line, perhaps anticipating that Envy are going to try to play aggressively for some information. There is a man in lower dark at the moment for Envy. It's probably Happy. It usually is. Indeed, there it is. It's Happy. Going to be able to take 1 frag there. And he's always so sneaky at getting into lower dark, and that's going to be a lot of information for his team. We can see the rotation coming in towards B now, as shox tries to push Longhouse to see what damage he can do.
Not much of a house, really, is it? You know,
it's
just 2 doors. And
hey, depends where you're from. Okay. All right. So 4-1 is the score. And again, LGB, you can see so much thought behind their moves here. They have taken the A site, and shox got to come in with a big result. Only picks up 1 kill there as we go into a 3-on-2. And just trying to get ferry that bomb over to be planted. And a great flick there from Polly, just leaving kioShiMa alone. He's going to actually get quite a bit of damage here. 2 quick frags from kioShiMa. There's only 1 player left. zEVES with 9 health, going for the jump shot. He must know he's low. And he's going to take him down. That was
very nicely done, the way he was jumping up there.
So 3 quick kills.
No, it seemed when Polly got that kill onto shox, like that should have been it, because the 2 guys were trapped below the 2 CTs. But I mean, the kill that really decided that round was when the CT looked into long A and pretty much instantly headshot that guy, because if he even misses once there, then that guy can play with him, force him to come out. You've got a crossfire on that spot. That'd be really difficult. That's where you just that's a round where I actually feel a bit for LGB, because that's just where if you have some of the best aimers in the world, they can just do something like that, and it nullifies your advantage. You're in the proper positions.
But that's what's to me is so actually exciting about this match here, is that what LGB are doing is that they can put all the faith in the thought behind these rounds, because the thought behind each of these rounds is actually really the way they're playing. I feel like they're outplaying Envy at the moment from a strategical standpoint. They're taking situations where they always have advantages, but the rounds EnVyUs have won so far are purely of individual skill.
Yeah.
And so this is a really awesome dynamic. We're seeing now the push coming into B here. SmithZz on the defense, and it's just a bunch of Tech 9s seeing what they can get done. It looks like they will actually
be an op for them.
Get the site as well. This could get really ugly. Rain on the AWP at the back of the site. Suddenly very doable here for LGB.
Especially with 3 people as well. And look where they have the guy who had the Tech 9. I mean, he gets killed in the end, but that was a decent position to have him in, so he could have been shooting people coming over.
Rain is still alive.
It's going to be very difficult to win now.
Gonna pull out the Tech 9 though. It's like he's not going to get much with it, and the Tech 9 to me is it's such a random weapon. I don't know, like I just feel like using it, seeing people use it feels really random. But the spread when you're running, I feel like that's the issue with the weapon.
That's the problem. I mean, that's one of the problems that everyone always said about the season, which is never addressed.
They
changed stuff, the money, they changed whatever, the firing speed, but it was the fact that it was the accuracy while moving. The thing with the Tech 9 is it's not that great to aim, but you get so many bullets with it. I think that's part of the problem right there.
So we're seeing right now a pretty standard opening from Envy once again. The 3 men towards long, able to disperse back towards the A site once NBK is in position. And LGB, they're looking at so far a standard round as well. They got some guys in dark just systematically taking portions of map control. And I imagine soon they'd want to try to take Catwalk as well. jkaem going to get flashed in for a quick peek into middle here, just to see if there's anybody playing this position. Not seeing anyone actually gives them some information about the setup here. And that it's probably quite likely there's 2 playing on B. I think that LGB should have the understanding to realize that. But now comes their response. How do they decide to open up the round? Because so far Envy are being very passive, very defensive. This is not the kind of defensiveness that we've seen from them so far. So EnVyUs putting LGB to a new problem.
It's very unlikely they're going to expect this guy to be here. But they do come around looking at him.
And NBK does go down, so lots of pressure on the A site here. But the smoke down, they actually, with 35 seconds left, they're going to start to be quite committed here. The time is going to start to be an issue. You can see they're trying to get players in position on the catwalk area. Is that they might be going for a fake, or
no, there's not enough time.
It's like a bit of indecision there from LGB, actually moving backwards and forwards. That might actually cost them here. Happy going to get traded upon by RUBINO as they try to make their efforts forward. Now it's on to shox, gets another kill there. kioShiMa helping out as well, but shox put to the wall as LGB get themselves on the site. And SmithZz with the shot.
That really was crucial. But he didn't know where he was.
zEVES in a very dangerous position here. In comes SmithZz. 7 HP, just 1 bullet, just 1 tag from zEVES. That's all he needs, but SmithZz has his crosshair trained on, and he does get a tag. Looking for something. SmithZz can't quite connect yet. And zEVES just playing with him. And oh my goodness, what an incredible shot. You got to give it to SmithZz for that one. That was absolutely clutch.
I mean, SmithZz right there was trying to make zEVES have the peak. and zEVES only peaked something like 1.5 times the whole
yeah.
thing. He was actually really patient there, because you'd assume the guy's walking up on you the whole time, or he's going to drop down. And so a bit unlucky, but yeah, great shot obviously from SmithZz with the headshot. And the problem there is that costs LGB their AWP, which they've bought a whole bunch of times now, because Polly was actually doing pretty well with it the rounds he had it. He was getting kills, but now they can't afford it.
Oh my goodness, and he's going to actually get a kill and a really severely damaging tag, and that's not the worst part here, because Happy's actually in lower dark again, and kioShiMa is going to find the finish on Rain on top mid, and Happy's going to see nothing. He's going to investigate at top mid, but meanwhile they're pushing into B, and EnVy don't know about this.
For free.
So they completely misread this. LGB managed to find a small window of opportunity to move through a blind spot in EnVy's defense, and this might just be a way to save this horrible situation. Bomb goes down, in come the EnVy players, looking good for them so far.
It's going to be very hard to hold this. It's pretty unlikely, actually.
Playing quite well with the smoke here, actually, though, and so far they put it to a 2-on-2. zEVES with another follow-up. SmithZz now again in a 1-on-1, this time against RUBINO. Up against AK. As that bomb ticks away.
A bit of time.
Oh my god, I almost expected SmithZz to get a no-scope there, but RUBINO gets the quick headshot, and it's going to be around for LGB. And
oh, really well held there within the site, because the positions that the EnVy guys were in, you thought to yourself, well, they could just overwhelm them here. But actually, one by one, they came out, and they managed to play around the boxes quite well.
They had like a smoke like in this, covering this area when they're playing two players like this. It seemed like that kind of was the difference there. It's really interesting kind of, basically that you create a bit of cover with that smoke, and very interesting effect that it had for them. And LGB, I mean, they're just against pistols at the moment, and you can see them how passive they're being right now. RUBINO's just looking for that push in case they did stack some guys towards long. Just systematically clearing out EnVyUs, taking the ranges, keeping themselves in advantage at all times. And it's good to see them win around like that, because with teams like this, I always get worried that they'll get intimidated eventually, that like we feel like we're always putting ourselves in the best positions to win, but we're just not skilled enough. We're just not skilled enough to actually execute, or our opponents are just outskilling us so much, and that in of itself is an intimidating factor. But winning rounds like that is certainly going to help out, and just jkaem going down here so far, and shox going to come in against 3 players. He is to be dealt with as well. So kioShiMa could get something done here. No frags for him. 6-4, and we are actually starting to see why LGB picked this map. Every round from them has been very carefully considered and thought out. I think actually from recent memory, this is the most interesting T side of Dust2 that I've seen from a team recently. Just how they're moving together. It's definitely impressive for me, at least. Many teams playing a much more individual style on this map. You can see LGB taking A long again very quickly here, and instantly taking
a bizarre scenario here where who's that? Who's got behind them there?
I have no idea, but there it is. It's Happy.
Yeah,
of course, it's always Happy moving through smokes.
The thing is, it's not even that he knows where the opponent is, but he has the best timing somehow of how to move past people.
Yeah.
He's very famous on Inferno,
yes.
actually, at that B site. He always manages to get behind.
I think
if you try that yourself, you just run into someone, they shoot you, or you're not quite sure where the guy is and he gets past and the free kill's gone.
Yeah.
You have to have a very good intuitive sense for when to do it.
There's actually like certain spots as well where you're slightly elevated enough above the smoke, which is exactly like that Inferno situation on the wagon. And the way that they actually throw the smokes is specifically for that as well, like consistently. And I don't think I've seen another team do that. I think it's just EnVy that have been doing that so far. I'm sure others will pick it up, but
now here's another one of these rounds where it's like it has to be skill for skill at this point. Because look where the bomb is planted. If the LGB guys are going to win this, they can. They're going to have to actually win the aim duels, though.
And Polly's
this is going to be a problem, because as soon as he missed that shot there, remember that guy doesn't have to show. But he's going to, because it's kioShiMa. And he wins. Yeah. And he headshots him with the pistol. It's like, well, I'm out of bullets there. They have to come to me, but yeah, just headshot him with his pistol, I think. That's just in general, though, the way EnVy's style of players. Like, they will always take the aim duel. Almost every single player in this team actively seeks to take an aim duel, to take a fight, to just get the kill now.
Yeah.
They don't really favour positional play very often at all.
So,
but they've got more than enough rounds so far.
Yeah,
Considering how badly it started, this is going absolutely fine for Envy.
Exactly, yeah. The kinds of rounds that Envy are winning, just the fact that it always comes down to all this individual skills is definitely, and just like great intuition in fight is certainly paying off massively for them. And LGB this time looking for something a little bit different. They have a bit of a standard opener here. They're taking over Catwalk, taking over Dark, and they have a good sense of middle as well. I don't know if they spotted the player on middle, and if they did, that would inform them as to the setup. And we've got an upper Dark push going on at the moment. It's going to be SmithZz who picks up the kill onto Polly there, and you can actually see jkaem taking down shox on the A bomb site. Now that is really interesting now, but he's going to actually launch into the CT spawn area, which is actually going to undo everything good he just did. Oh my goodness! After
all the nice things you said about like the consideration that's going into things, I think that play right there was the extreme outlier. That we'll call that for the moment. We'll call that the exception that proves the rule. DBK.
Okay, we'll go with that
because there was no logic behind that.
No, exactly. Well, zEVES is going to pick up Happy. He's actually in a 1-on-2, so with the AK in 30 seconds left,
doesn't have a whole lot of time. That's his problem. And it turns out there's one at each site. It's unlikely he's going to look there.
That's really unfortunate for zEVES. Had he picked B, I mean, he had a 1-on-1 no matter which way he was going, especially considering NBK was on a shotgun. So, but you're right. I mean, that's the interesting thing about them losing a player on upper dark, but then simultaneously getting the pick on A. Like that created a situation for Envy where they actually had to force kind of someone to rotate, and that would have created openings, as there would be really good positioning on the A site. So, yeah, that drop there. You gotta be. That's definitely the most questionable play. Well, not even questionable, but definitely the worst play we've seen out of them so far. But LGB 6-6, they're definitely doing a good job against Envy so far. But this pistol rush could be short-lived. They're up against kioShiMa here in middle, so don't expect them to have a long lifespan. And it's going to be a big cleanup there, SmithZz, in the end. And 7-6, now EnVyUs actually taking a lead. But the money for them is not actually that good, but although that said, it's not going to matter that much. We're almost to the end of this first half, and LGB going to be on full AKs, but there's not a huge stock of grenades from them. And something that we haven't really seen from them is any particular, let's say, set executes. They tend to kind of have a flurry of tactics which they bring out from taking area to area and call it on the fly. But NBK finally...
And that's without a bullet being fired so far against the Envy guys.
It's not looking good for them. But I think that's the first time NBK has actually come out on top in those 1 versus X situation there along. And that said, we're going to have 2 kills for LGB, but they're incredibly low here. So,
well, they should be able to get the bomb down at the very least. So they're going to have at least an afterplant situation.
Definitely take quite some creativity and definitely a little bit of luck for LGB to pull this one off.
Their positioning is actually pretty bad, though, unfortunately, because of where the Envy players are going to come from. It's going to be very hard to hold this.
Oh, that's a great incendiary there thrown by SmithZz. It's going to cause problems, but zEVES does pick up the kill, and that's going to be it.
Actually, on the round before this, when kioShiMa was playing against the pistol rush, where they were ecoing, that's an example there, actually, of why also you could have more positional play in 1.6, because that position he was in there, that's like a minimum 3-man spray down there. You're not gonna get killed unless it's like a lucky deagle headshot by anything less than that. So those are the 2 more factors that made 1.6 also more positionally based than just raw aiming, because you had wall banging, so you could just shoot through a wall when you know someone's coming to there, and then secondly you had like big spray that you could do. So if you were one player, you could just position in the right exact spot, whereas it's not that likely you're going to get more than 2 kills each time in this game. So it's going to take more people doing the kills to win a round for you than just the 1 or 2 stars.
But we have an interesting development here, because already EnVyUs are actually taking a positional advantage in this round.
But now Happy, in theory, can lock them right into the A site here.
Exactly.
But I don't think he saw the first guy jump over, though.
Happy's actually going towards
catwalk. Yeah, he actually doesn't know where they are at the moment.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting situation.
But he also didn't hear anything catwalk, so let's see right now, because he's going to encounter this guy in a second. So he's running the whole time, so the guy knows he's there. Or apparently he doesn't. Doesn't matter anyway.
Good reactions, though. And the 3-on-4, and it's an interesting situation in the mid-round here, although...
This is going to be very unfortunate, because that's the bomb down now.
Yeah. And, I mean, to be honest, like...
I mean, this half started so well for LGB.
Yeah, it really
They got into a lot of 2vx situations, and yet the half ends 9 rounds for EnVyUs. So I mean, I don't really know what more you're supposed to do if you're LGB in that particular scenario.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some awkward spots which were a bit more winnable, but you can definitely see the edges that EnVyUs have just based on the their abilities just to win some of these fights, these angels, like really strong. And we'll have to see. You know, LGB they showed a good understanding of their T side. That should actually reflect quite well onto their CT side. But then again, it's actually harder for them because now EnVyUs get to exert their skill even more on some of these chosen points of entry. But it will start here at the pistol, looking to potentially go for a bit of a peek on middle. Envy, they do pick up the kill onto jkaem straight away, and they're going to back away with their advantage. So smart play here. They haven't even been tagged yet. And shox is going to pick up another one. And shox is going to enter shox mode here, where he just walks in and just takes everybody out, picks up another frag, and gets tagged down pretty low. But at this point, you got to say the round has to be won here. This shouldn't be a way that EnVyUs can throw this one away. It's just RUBINO left. He's going to pick up a kill onto Happy, making it a 1-on-3. So this would be the clutch of all clutches for him. But he's, of course, not going to get that one. 10-6 to score as EnVy pick up the pistol. And even if this game kind of ends on like a shutout, just kind of LGB not getting much more than even 6 to 8 rounds or something, I still really enjoyed that first half from them, and it was still very competitive. But we'll have to see if they're able to pull things back. They have gone for the standard pistol armor with the scout, and you can see that EnVyUs have a very different approach here. They are actually spread across the map, so we can see that the shox even getting tagged. This is the reason why we saw LGB staying together as a pack, moving through areas together against this, because for just letting the scout get these tags, eventually when they do push in, the pistols all of a sudden will be twice as good because they won't take nearly as many shots to actually take these players down. And so early damage battle rages on here. Happy is able to get some tags as well. So it looks like EnVyUs now looking for that A split here. They got the push up on the A bomb site. Happy goes pretty low here. So Polly is really key in getting more tags, but he's not able to get anything else. 2 players really low here for EnVyUs, but doesn't look like LGB is going to get any frags, or much more than 1 or 2 at least. So far, it's a clean round here for EnVyUs, and that's going to be very important to keep that economy just untouched, as LGB are now going to be on the full eco. So they got a lot of options here. They could try to stat, they could try to boost up to cat. There's lots of ways to play it, but I always feel like this is the most hopeless of CT eco rounds, like on Dust 2. Like, what do you do? It's like the most awkward one ever. It's very difficult to play against the rifles with just USPs.
I mean, the range is a killer as well. If the terrorists want, they can just keep it long range, at worst medium range if they're just hitting the A site. It's very hard to get really up close. Or if you do and you get a kill, how do you get to that gun? How do you stop the terrorists just pulling back? Then it's a lot more difficult than some of the other sides. A site like a map like Inferno, rather, you can create a lot of those close angles. And we can see so far. Okay, they've got a gun now. They've got 1 gun. There's 2 guns.
All right, so that's actually a pretty good result there for them. Let's see if they can keep these weapons alive for now. Do have 3 players here for EnVyUs who are looking to just make sure that the bomb is definitely going to explode, and there's no sneaky business here as they also look to get themselves out safely. shox does have time to wait that smoke out a little bit, a bit more safe movement, but look at this, that's okay, well, okay, man, I expect at least 1 frag there, but no. Unfortunately, LGB unable to pick up anything. But now's the buy round. So unfortunately for them, they're kind of low economy, so we can't see the full nades or maybe even an AWP thrown in. So we won't see that gameplay from them yet. But it'll be interesting to see how they play the lower economy buy here against EnVyUs, who haven't picked up an an AWP yet in favor of an AK, just because I suppose they just want that really dynamic but also more economical approach. So shox is absolutely very scary. Very scary indeed when he's making some of these entries onto the A bomb site. And as is kioShiMa here. And here goes the set play from them. The nades are in. And there's jkaem popping up on the slope. He needs to get more than one frag here to stop this rush, to enable a retake to happen. But it looks like the Flames will take him down. Polly able to trade back onto kioShiMa to give the advantage here
but they're
to
pushed off
LGB.
the site at the moment. That's the problem.
But if their player on Catwalk can actually survive, no, he won't. Smith will take him down. Now it's going to be an issue for them. They don't have any way to.
Remember, there's no AWP on their side.
And actually, looks like they are going to split up. They want two avenues of attack here. So this is really interesting. RUBINO is going to pick up the frag on the site. There's huge pressure on Smith, but he's patient. He heard the stepping. He does take down Polly, and now he's against RUBINO. He knows exactly where he is, but this plant is for short, and RUBINO has no kit. There's no way that he has time to get this now. He can only go and save.
Yeah, kind of disappointing there because you could almost see the play setting up. Like, unless Smith gets that kill there, okay, it was going to be fine. But if he got that particular kill at that moment, it was going to be very hard to win that 1v1 because how could you make him show with that much time left? He didn't have a kit, as you're saying. Remember, he didn't even have a gun at one point.
Yeah, it's really. I really like how LGB did decide actually to split back though, because as you say, like it does.
Look at this buy they're going for here.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, they're gonna. They leave
Just
themselves.
pistols.
Okay, yeah, yeah. They got a lot of cash to buy in the following rounds. Get those ops in play. That's what I'm really curious about.
But the game will almost be over at that point in time. That's the problem. So
Yeah. But perhaps they feel like that's the only way they're going to get an edge here.
it probably is. It's probably the right sort of buy for this sort of game. I mean, we've seen they haven't been winning a lot of the end battles. So what's the point in having being under-equipped and having an end battle versus a really good player?
That's always the problem I felt like with Dust 2 for the CT side when the economy gets a little bit down. Because on a map like Inferno, it's kind of easier to have this situation where you kind of have to scrap a buy together because there's so much more like choke points to play with. You can actually be more creative. But on this map, it feels like... And to be also, EnVy aren't playing with an AWP, which I find quite surprising actually. Would at least expect Smith to be AWPing on it, but perhaps they just doesn't feel like it at the moment.
Haven't needed it so far.
Yeah. It is an interesting... It changes the dynamic, makes them much faster on the map here. And shox likes to be really fast, and he might not suspect the extra play. Exactly, it does get picked off. That's beautiful play there for LGB, although the one-for-one trade is not necessarily going to go in their favor as EnVyUs take this opportunity to go in, but that was a perfect flash there, and that is going to enable them to clean up almost everybody. Happy down at the end, lurking around as well, and that was a well-played round there from LGB. Although that said as well, EnVyUs, shox kind of committed them into the A site there, it felt like. Perhaps he made a call for them. I think he had that one-on-one, but there was really a two-man setup, but which they hadn't confirmed to be there just yet.
He thought once the first guy dropped down, right now we're only going to be facing one guy at most, so we'll just rush in as four. It's very unlikely someone from below is going to kill us all, but it actually turned out, no, that there was an extra man. So it was a good guess from the guys on LGB to be overloading that site.
Definitely.
This one's going to be harder to hold, though.
Let's see if they're able to pull it off, though. Again, the nade's coming in, and Polly already in position to catch the guy dropping down, but he's used quite a few bullets there, and they haven't actually spotted his position. This is actually amazing. Polly gets 2 quick frags. The bomb is down. They have to go back to retrieve that, and the push from the players from B is going to come in. Happy's only going to get one of them, so that means presence on Catwalk very fast. kioShiMa cannot plant for Cat safely, and Polly going to come in. This time, he's going to get caught from an unknown position, and EnVy...
Now shox very low health here. And the bomb wasn't down yet.
2-on-2 is... this is actually really interesting now because this is the situation on the retake that LGB wanted before.
Are going to let him get in.
Oh, kioShiMa. He's so low here, but it just requires one bullet to the face of RUBINO.
In theory, he doesn't know the health that shox is on, so to him, he's just facing 2 guys still.
Here he goes against these 2 guys. Can he get the spray? He won't. kioShiMa on the angle as well, saving the round there for EnVy. And a round that really should have gone to LGB. And that's going to be absolutely gutting because now they lose all grip on the match. And again, like I keep thinking back to the first half and how good the T rounds, some of them really looked for LGB. But EnVyUs just really... asserting their skill, to be honest.
This is one of the reasons they're so good on this map, because they almost are one of the few teams who doesn't have to mind how many CT rounds they got. No, they got plenty here. They got 9, because they can just bully people. Like you see the way their entries are in this game. It almost doesn't matter what position you're playing in. They can just run in. The guy instantly headshots you.
And looks like they're going to go for a fast finish here into the B bomb site, straight through middle. Got the split going on. NBK jumping up over the smoke and. Just 2 players left. However, some good frags coming in. Polly with the mag there, able to take down Happy again, who was lurking around. And jkaem with a 5-7 armor. RUBINO picks up an extra kill, so 2-on-2 suddenly doable here for LGB. But they've got to get into the site, and they do actually have a lot of flashes. So that's a great pop flash from RUBINO. We've seen this work out well before. You can see got the player at the back of Plateau, but not NBK, and that's the player that will take them both out, 16-7. And yeah, that's interesting. That's a really interesting match for me. Despite being 16-7, you can see a lot of 16-7s that are just uninteresting matches. But to me, that was I enjoyed the first half greatly from LGB there. What were your thoughts on their play?
It's what's strange is they lost 16-7, so quite a large margin overall. But I can't really look at it and say like, oh, they had the wrong approach or they messed up a lot of key rounds. A lot of rounds, quite frankly, were just won by not just better individual skill, but sometimes ridiculously so. I mean, think about that first round. I think it was that the NV guys won where. And it was basically just with deagles. They had 4 deagles
on the side, just boom with the deagle. Yeah,
and that won them around against full guns, and they didn't lose a man. Now I don't know what you're supposed to do against that. Like the strategy isn't like, oh, run in there and then just don't get headshot by someone with a deagle. So yeah, great outskilling in terms of the NV guys. LGB did enough overall. There was a couple of 2v2s on the A site there. Maybe could have gone a little bit differently. The guy steps out a second earlier, or he throws a flash a little bit faster. I think overall, the game kind of played out the way it should.
Yeah, and actually, you know, that moment where jkaem did drop to CT spawn, despite obviously that being, like, from our perspective, we can see that that's a terrible move. Yeah, and obviously, it can be like, in reality, that was, I think the round you're talking about there had a way more impact on the game from the position LGB were in, especially considering just like the approach that they took there as well is they took long. You were talking about this before when we were saying about how hard it can be for the CTs with the pistols. They took long, so they're forcing mid-ranges constantly, and then they completely smoke off crossover. So how they even found all those frags without anyone dying is just beyond me. Like, I have no idea how they even did that. Then to pick up all the value that was on the ground is a ridiculous turn of events. But that excites me. We do have another LGB game coming up later, and it's going to be on Cash, which is against Fnatic. And that's going to be after the next match, which we're going to set up right now. It's going to be Fnatic versus NIP, and it will be on Mirage. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back with that match right off the break.